Gun battles have erupted in several parts of the capital over the past 24 hours. Today, rebels are closing in on Tripoli from two sides. From the east after taking control of Zlitan, and from the west after gaining control of Zawiya. This morning, the main rebel forces were within 27 kilometres of Tripoli. They clashed with pro-Gaddafi forces who forced them back just a few kilometres to what is now a new front line. Our correspondent Rupert Wingfield-Hayes has been on the front line. He reports from Zawiya.
There's no doubt where these rebels think they're going. To Tripoli. On the road ahead, discarded uniforms from Gaddafi's soldiers who have fled minutes before.
Allahu Akbar!
Hundreds of rebels are now on the march towards the capital, and they believe the end is now close.
Allahu Akbar!
6 months ago, these were students and electricians, even dentists. Now they are united by one thing.
Today, Tripoli!
So how do you feel today?
Very happy, my friend.
Why are you so happy?
Because we're gonna take this bastard out of his... wherever he is, man.
In the small town of Jeddaim, we meet incoming sniper fire. But the rebels keep moving forward. As they advance, the flags are changed. Now just 30 kilometres from Tripoli, we enter the small town of Al-Maya. The rebels are welcomed as liberators.
This is just 27 kilometers exactly from his place. We are going there now. We are going just. We'll be there in just 20 minutes. Yes. Okay. We are in freedom in Libya.
But the optimism is misplaced. Suddenly, everyone is running for cover. Bullets whizzing overhead.
We just come down the road a bit further towards Tripoli from Judaim, and we're now, you can hear above me here this incoming sniper fire, very, very heavy sniper fire just coming over the top of our heads here. So finally this morning, having had a relatively easy ride early on, now the rebels seem to have met some proper resistance.
The rebels are taking casualties, and it's time for us to leave. Panic turns to chaos. The rebels are now in full retreat. As they fall back, the prospects of making it to Tripoli by nightfall evaporate. The fight for the capital will be harder than they'd thought. Rupert Wingfield-Hayes, BBC News, on the road to Tripoli.
Our World Affairs correspondent Matthew Price is in Tripoli. Matthew, what have you seen or heard in the past few hours?
Well, certainly there's been a lot of intensive fighting going on in parts of Tripoli this evening. It was interesting the way Rupert ended his report there. We were told earlier, the journalists in the hotel here by the information minister, that there were 65,000 professional soldiers, Libyan army, pro-Gaddafi forces, inside this capital ready to defend it. And he said that's not even counting the volunteers, as the government calls it, mercenaries as the rebels call them, who are also, he says, prepared to fight. He says that the tribes in the city, the various tribal affiliations have been bringing in, I guess you could phrase it, reinforcements in order to protect those tribes. And there is a real fear here, I think, amongst senior government figures, certainly that's the indications I'm getting, of some sort of tribal war, some sort of urban warfare here in the city of Tripoli, which will lead, in the words of one official, to a massacre. It's being reported that several hundred people were killed last night in just one night of fighting here. And I think there are concerns in Tripoli that there could be worse to come. But then again, from what Rupert was saying, there are places where the rebels are not meeting so much resistance. It's just very, very hard to gauge at this stage.
All right, Matthew Price in the Libyan capital, Tripoli. Thank you very much indeed. And just time to tell you before we go that Syria's President Bashar al-Assad has, for the very first time since the uprisings against his rule began in the middle of March, has given a television interview to Syrian state television. He rejected calls, the international ones, for him to step down. He said he was confident that his country would deal with the crisis. This is BBC World News.
Hello there, thank you for joining me and welcome along to our detailed look at the conditions right across the Middle East. As you would expect at this time of year, it's dry and fine through much of Egypt, so too into the Sinai and into the Levant. Coming further south, well, then we pick up on those showers from about Khartoum southwards, but you'll notice they rather peter out as we turn through the Horn of Africa and certainly into the drought-affected area. Very little to report by way of significant rainfall there. One or two showers